What's going on, guys? This is Saturday Afternoon Wrestling, and it is a great day to talk about wrestling because it is Royal Rumble Day. I'm recording this part Friday night. I recorded previews and predictions for the Royal Rumble, which you will see after this earlier Thursday. So, going to have a little bit different today, but I wanted to make sure everything was done so I can get this posted with plenty of time before the show, since it does have that early start time as well. I love the Royal Rumble. I always equate it to my birthday. It comes at the end of the month, and then obviously WrestleMania season as well. It's crazy to think that we are here already on the road to WrestleMania, that it's already been almost a year since Cody Rhodes finally finished the story. But I'm really excited. I talk about it a little bit later in the predictions, so I'm not going to go over it too much here, but I really appreciate the attention to all of these stories that WWE has been telling. It feels like we have a legitimate, like, half a dozen or more, like, real possibilities to win the Rumble and take the story in whatever direction they want to go. So I really appreciate that. It's really refreshing. But before I get into all that with the Royal Rumble preview and everything, I wanted to talk a little bit about AEW. I try to talk about both every week. I like to focus on, all of the positives, all of the things that I enjoy from both, because I think, in wrestling media and YouTube and all over the place, just internet wrestling, feels like there's a lot of tribalism. There's a lot of, just back and forth and a lot of disliking one or the other. And I prefer to try to highlight things because I do enjoy watching both. So I want to preface it with that. But 2 weeks ago, AEW had a Dynamite that they held during the big winter storms that were happening, and it impacted a lot of travel and a lot of booking for that show. And I thought the end result show was so good still. It was fast moving, it was crisp, the stories were good, everything was great. They really made something out of what could have been a disastrous type of situation. And I really enjoyed that, and I thought, man, that's a lot of momentum that they're building here. They've got so much going on. And then this last week, Dynamite came, and I just don't know. It wasn't as good as its parts. The sum wasn't as good as its parts, is the best way I can put it, because there was so much on this show that is likable and enjoyable and interesting and kept me engaged. But afterwards, when I thought about it, I was like, eh. And I don't know what it was. I don't know where the disconnect is happening. So, like, I wrote down notes to, like, make sure I didn't miss anything. And, like, the notes are, like, Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega. I love that. I love seeing them together. I love everything that's going on with them. But Will Ospreay has a great match with Brian Cage this last week on Dynamite, gets the win. The Don Callis family comes out, jumps him. Kenny Omega comes out, and they both get beaten down by the Don Callis family. And then, like, 40 minutes later, we got a video package summarizing everything that happened in that first segment with Ospreay and Brian Cage and the post-match beatdown. And the post-match beatdown already felt long. So not only did we get to watch it once as it was happening, but we got a recap video package like an hour later or less showing everything again. And it felt like killing time. It felt like they were like, well, we have over 2 hours tonight. We have an overage, so I guess just run the recap. But it just felt weird, and like I enjoy what they're doing with this story, and I love seeing Ospreay and Omega together. It just was such an odd choice, and it just really felt like, why did I watch it then if I could just see the highlights after? And then similarly, I really like what they're doing with Ricochet and Swerve Strickland. And I love that. I love the story that they're telling. I think I've said before, I'm completely blown away with how good Ricochet has been with this heel turn. I did not see this coming at all. I am impressed is not enough to describe how surprised I am at how this has flipped so quickly. But I really enjoy what they're doing. But at the same time, it feels like it's not a whole lot. And then you remember, like, oh, wasn't Swerve just feuding with Bobby Lashley? Like, wasn't he the first feud for Lashley? But now they're the tag champs. The Hurt Syndicate are the tag champs. And Swerve is in this blood feud with Ricochet, which the match is going to be great. I don't think it's going to be one and done. I'm sure they'll do it again, but it's going to be great. But I just find myself thinking, like, okay, cool. That was a lot of fun. And then where the show loses the plot for me is with this Death Riders, Jeff Jarrett, MJF storyline. And I know that's not a unique thing right now to say, because a lot of people are really tuning out on those specific storylines. And I will say I've been very critical of the Death Riders not advancing the story at all for weeks and weeks and weeks. But this week we did get a little bit more. We had the backstage interview segment with Renee Paquette, where Jon Moxley essentially said, "You don't see the title because I am the title. I'm the champion. I am the benchmark. Come get it if you want to see it." And I appreciate that, because that's honestly more than we've gotten in recent weeks. But I think the thing that is causing this dissonance in my head when it comes to like this storyline and wanting to see it just kind of be either done or do whatever it's going to do is the thought that all of this essentially has come from the Death Riders like killing off Bryan Danielson. Like the last time we saw Bryan Danielson, these guys destroyed him. Wheeler Yuta turned on him and broke his heart, and he was stretchered out. We haven't heard or seen him since. Nothing. Wiped clean from AEW, basically, for the sake of this storyline. And it doesn't feel like the storyline since then has done anything close to that. And now, maybe it was supposed to be Darby Allin, who they had been targeting so much before, but now he's gone until I think June or July doing this Mount Everest trip. And I don't want this story to go until June or July to then have him come back and kick it into whatever this final gear is going to be. I don't think the way that it's escalating and the way it's unfolding and the way everything has been happening is justifying we murdered our top babyface, basically. Like, we killed off our babyface for this. It just doesn't feel like the stakes match, if that makes sense. Case in point, this match with Claudio Castagnoli and Jeff Jarrett, where it took like 3 or 4 of the Death Riders for Claudio to beat 60-year-old Jeff Jarrett. And then the very next match is Wheeler Yuta, Jay White, and they're nowhere to be found until after the match is over and Jay White's trying to beat Wheeler Yuta up some more. Then they come out. It's so weird. Like, for their whole message being like, we're going to rebuild AEW and I'm the belt, I'm the benchmark. Like, they do the same thing every week, and it's one contained segment. Like the start, a couple, like when this first really started picking up steam like months ago, it was good because they would just cut to them randomly in the back, just jumping people and beating people up and running out and like just antagonizing the locker room. And now it just feels like a segment. It feels like there's 5 people on the AEW roster that care about the Death Riders because that's what the story is. And I appreciate too, AEW has had moments where they have like someone like Will Ospreay mention, he said it a few weeks ago to Kenny Omega. He said, "I've been trying to get to this Death Riders thing, but I have to keep coming back to Don Callis because they're not letting me go, basically. They keep coming back at me." And I appreciate that. I appreciate them going to that. And they made these huge deals about Private Party and Daniel Garcia and all of these guys who were kind of banding together. And now it feels like they have just been kind of dropped into whatever they're doing. And we're off to, the new group, Rated FTR and Jay White, who I'm very happy to see Jay White getting this run. But I don't know. There's a lot more on this topic than I wanted to say. I can't lie. I apologize for the rant here, but this is where the show kind of comes apart for me, and it because there's so much attention obviously being put into the logic everywhere else, that to see it kind of fall apart here is glaring, I guess. Like, hey, we've got a lot of good things happening. It just took 4 top guys to beat Jeff Jarrett, who wasn't really even legitimately considered a contender until 2 or 3 weeks ago when we kind of like started this whole thing. So I don't know, but like I'm saying, so the show just doesn't add up to what it should be. When I look at all of the breakdown, it just does not add up. And the thing that I think they need to be doing is they need to be focusing on their women's division more, because their women's division is absolutely stacked. You have Mariah May and Toni Storm essentially running back their feud slightly different. And it is the best part of the show outside of the Osprey Omega stuff for me personally. I love seeing those two, and it's so crazy to think that they kept them apart and then they come back to the feud like this, and it immediately reignites to where, like, I don't know if I'm speaking for just myself, but like everyone, like I'm very interested in what, like the story they're telling, and I think they're such a good pair together of characters, specifically with Timeless Toni Storm being back in the fold, and Timeless Toni Storm returned. It was a huge deal. One of the biggest stories in AEW is Timeless Toni Storm, and her return came on AEW Collision, which doesn't get the treatment that Dynamite gets. But in recent weeks, Collision has felt so much better. It's had such high stakes matches. It's had such evolutions and storylines and things. It's had so many moments. And it feels like it's not getting the push and attention that Dynamite gets. Part of that is because Dynamite is the main show. I understand that. But I was reading something this week that said that Tony Khan is more hands on now with Collision, and that's part of why it's doing so much better. But that makes me wonder, like, is he doing less with Dynamite, or is he doing the same with Dynamite, and there's just something about Collision not having as much pressure that's making it easier to write good, compelling storylines? It's just such an odd thing. They're at such an interesting point. And on top of all of that, we don't have a pay-per-view for them until March. We have a AEW Grand Slam Australia coming up in February in a couple weeks, and that we found out recently is basically going to be like an extended special event Dynamite Collision type of show. And that feels like it could be a huge mistake depending on how they book it. Because if it just unfolds like a normal Dynamite and we get a couple good matches and maybe like one or two big story swerves and changes, then, it'll be worth it. But I don't know. It just feels like the AEW pay-per-views have a reputation and an elevation factor to them. And to wait until March now for Revolution to have their next big pay-per-view where, presumably a lot of these matches would come to, like, or a lot of these stories would come to a head. It feels like a long time to wait. So there's a lot of pressure, I think, on Grand Slam to deliver something super memorable, and putting it as a special event and saying, it's a special event, not a pay-per-view, I think creates that thought in someone's head already, like, oh, okay, so this is like a Dynamite, this isn't a pay-per-view, and I think you calibrate and adjust your expectations accordingly. And I realize this kind of probably sounds and looks ridiculous with these happy birthday balloons swaying behind me, it's probably hard to believe, but I'm not trying to like pile on. I don't understand where it's not clicking for me. I've enjoyed AEW most of the time that I've been watching it. I appreciate what they do. I like a lot of the roster. I enjoy seeing a lot of the roster. It just feels like there is a lot of talent there that is not being used. And then we see them get used on Collision. It's super exciting and fun and fresh. And then they don't come to Dynamite. And Dynamite ends up feeling like the same thing again and again and again. Like if you swapped and put the Hounds of Hell on Dynamite and moved just like the Jeff Jarrett MJF stuff to Collision, and like we had 1 week where it wasn't like here's a 10-minute promo between Jeff Jarrett and MJF, like I think it could do some good. Like we have something we don't see on Dynamite all the time. We have I don't know, you have Okada wrestling on Collision, Takeshita wrestling on Collision, the Hounds of Hell, like I said, Toni Storm returns as Timeless Toni Storm. Like you have all these huge things happening on the second show. And it doesn't feel like the first show is creating as many memorable moments as they were at the rate that they were to keep up with that. So of course there's going to be feigning interest in one and rising interest in the other. There needs to be a counterbalance to it in some way. And I'm going to stop here. Like I said, this is way longer than I wanted to talk about this because I just, I was just interested in it. We have a few other things that I want to get to, but I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to be piling on AEW. It's contract talks, everyone's favorite topic. We've got a bunch of people rumored to be unhappy or looking to leave. Maria Kanellis today announced that it was her last day with AEW, but Mike Bennett will be remaining. Obviously, she hadn't been getting utilized a whole lot on TV. But, then there's all the rumors with Britt Baker, Deonna Purrazzo, Ray Phoenix, obviously Malachi Black. No one really knows his status except to see that he's basically gone from the company until he pops up wherever he's going to pop up. And it's just, they're in an odd spot. They're in such an odd spot. And it's weird because there's so many things that I could point to as like shining examples of what I'm enjoying and things that I love seeing every week. So I don't know. I'm not saying any of this to be like AEW is done for or anything like that. Like I said, I still really love AEW week to week and watching it week to week. It was such a jarring thing to go from 2 weeks ago when it felt like they really band together and put on a cool, crazy 2 hour adrenaline rush of a show into this last week where it felt like they did not know how to fill all of the time that they had. And it kind of just meandered around, and that inconsistency is, I think, the thing that people are, complaining about and pointing to. So I would like to see how things straighten out and how they keep things moving. And like I said, I'm gonna continue to trust and keep watching because I have faith in the performers and the talent here. So I think that's everything. I think that's gonna end the AEW rant portion here. Again, I apologize for going so long with it. And I did say before, but just in case you missed it, pre-recorded all of the Royal Rumble predictions and things, previews. Fortunately, at the time of recording this now, nothing has been added to the Royal Rumble card, so don't worry about that. I'm going to throw it to myself with that, and after that, be the end of the show. So thank you guys very much for bearing with me through that little bit of a rant there. Went a little bit longer than I wanted to, so I appreciate you listening. I'm sorry again to all of the AEW fans. I promise I really do enjoy the show. But for now, I'm going to say goodbye. I'm going to say enjoy your weekend and enjoy the Royal Rumble. Here are my previews and predictions for the show. It seems crazy that it's already here, but this weekend we have got the Royal Rumble, which means we are days away from the official kickoff to the road to WrestleMania and WrestleMania's season. This Royal Rumble is really interesting. I feel like this is one of the most story-driven men's Royal Rumbles we've had in a long time. They're really going above and beyond to load it up with star power for the match itself. And I feel like a lot of the time in the years past, the Royal Rumble would be like, there's the heavy hitters at the top, and then maybe like 10 or so, 15, where you're like, they don't really have a chance. Maybe there's like nostalgia run-ins and appearances. But this feels like the first time in a long time that I can remember where there's like 5 or 6 or 7 like viable options that they can go that would all serve the stories that they're telling. I mean, you look at the top, you've got CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, all of these guys who have, storylines that are compelling enough to take them to the main event of WrestleMania, whether they're challenging Gunther or Cody Rhodes. And I think that's something that they have done a really good job with this Royal Rumble season. I've been incredibly impressed with how they have managed to unfold all of these stories all at once and bring them to this point here where now we have, half a dozen viable Royal Rumble winners and no idea where they're going to go with it. So I think overall, too, this is going to be a good mix for the show. We've got 4 matches so far. If another match gets announced during this week, I apologize for not having it here. We've got 4 matches, which is kind of the new PLE format for WWE, which is nice because that means both of these Rumble matches are going to get plenty of time. But also these other 2 matches are going to get a lot of chance to shine as well. Specifically, the one that I'm most excited to see is this 2 out of 3 falls DIY versus the Motor City Machine Guns match. Because, like, the tag division on SmackDown has been holding down SmackDown's, like, go-home shows for months now. Like, it feels like every time there's a PLE, the night before on that SmackDown, we get an incredible tag team match of some type. There's always some sort of crazy tag team match going on, and it's always very cool to see. But shifting it over to the Royal Rumble and having it be these two teams feels like a huge win in my book. You have two very good, very established teams, and it's not like the Bloodline or Super Friends getting together and pairing up. It is two legitimate tag teams that maybe don't get the attention and spotlight on PLEs that a lot of these other teams tend to do. And so I feel really good for those guys because a 2 out of 3 falls match kind of guarantees we're going to have plenty of time to watch them go out there and cook. I don't think it'll open the show. My guess is we open the show with one of the Rumbles, go into them, then go into Cody and Kevin in the ladder match for the WWE title, and then end with the men's Rumble. I'm assuming, because the shot of whoever wins standing pointing at the sign while all the fireworks go off is kind of an undefeated cheat code for ending a show. So I would imagine it has to go that way. But I do want to say as well, I don't mean to shortchange the Women's Royal Rumble, because I think this is going to be a very top-tier Women's Royal Rumble as well. Because while the men's usually has a lot of the surprises and throwbacks and things, with so many top competitors in it, I kind of think this is going to be what the Women's Royal Rumble is. I think we're going to get, a lot of surprises, a few big returns. We already know about some of them. So I would not be surprised to see a ton of surprises happen in the women's match. We'll make a few predictions, talk about the show a little bit more, and then get out of here so we can all get ready to watch this Saturday. It actually has an early start time, too. It'll be 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific here where I am, so make sure you are prepared. I should say I don't know if that's the pre-show or the actual show. I'm guessing actual show, because I feel like they don't advertise usually the start of the pre-show time. So let's just assume, better safe than sorry, 6 Eastern. So be ready, and here we go. So like I said, we've got 4 matches on the card. I will start with DIY versus the Motor City Machine Guns in a 2 out of 3 falls match. This feels kind of weird because it feels like DIY has not been the champions long, but this reign has been effective in this heel turn and establishing them as heels. They stole the titles. They've cheated to defend them now, and it feels like it's too early in the story for the Machine Guns to get the win back and get the titles back and set everything right with the world. But it's also kind of like that makes sense of what the story has been. So I don't know, a 2 out of 3 falls match feels like a definitive type of match for the feud. So maybe DIY wins it and we have to get the Machine Guns crawling back through the ranks of the division, because it does feel like all of this has happened a little quickly, if you ask me. So I'm gonna say DIY retain. I'm gonna say they cheat to win, something nefarious happens, and we get DIY retaining to continue this heel turn Motor City Machine Guns babyface build here. Then the other non-Rumble match is Kevin Owens versus Cody Rhodes for the undisputed WWE title in a ladder match where Cody's title and the Winged Eagle belt will be hanging above the ring. This feud has been incredible. Kevin Owens has been on fire with this feud and this character. I have loved what he has been doing. Lately, too, we've been running in the Sami Zayn of it all with Kevin Owens saying, hey, you help me, I'll help you. You want to win the Royal Rumble, I want to win the title. We want to main event WrestleMania with each other because we're best friends. Think about it. It sounds so perfect. It's such a good, interesting addition to the storyline. It makes me wonder because, part of it, you think, okay, Sami Zayn's been on this great babyface run. We had the heel tag team before. But the way this is all building to Sami Zayn saying no to helping Kevin Owens and Kevin Owens screwing Sami Zayn out of the Royal Rumble match, and then there we go, now we have our feud for them for Mania. That feels too straightforward for this. I don't know. Maybe I'm at the point now where I'm just kind of always thinking what's the twist here? What do they have planned that isn't this thing that I see coming? Because they love messing with expectations like that and subverting the expectations like that. So I don't know. I think it's just a little too simple that way. I don't think Cody Rhodes is losing this match. I think he rolls into WrestleMania with the title, but I really don't know. I'm really curious to see how the story of this all unfolds. I'm gonna say Cody Rhodes wins, but I don't know what the story is going to be, and I'm very interested in that aspect of it. I think it's gonna be a great match. Kevin Owens is like the unofficial main event star for the Royal Rumble that's not the Royal Rumble match. It's unbelievable how many times he's been in this spot. And it feels like he delivers every time. So I'm expecting a very good match here. Next, we've got the Women's Royal Rumble match with 10 women announced so far, I believe. We've got the list right here. We've got Nia Jax, Bayley, Charlotte Flair, Naomi, Bianca Belair, Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, Lyra Valkyria, Ivy Nile, and Io Sky. And I know a couple of those names are like the heavy hitters, the favorites. You've got your Charlotte Flairs, you've got your Io Skies. Bayley, I think, is someone who is always a threat, even though she just won last year. But this is also about the people that you don't expect, like those returns. So I'm assuming we get a Becky Lynch return, a Jade Cargill return, a few NXT appearances. Maybe you get like Roxanne Perez. Lash Legend would be cool because then you get the spots with her and Bianca Belair again showing off. I would want to see Kalani Jordan here because I think her versatile athleticism really would like blend well with just about everyone in this match. She could have a lot of really cool spots in a limited amount of time, but it's almost probably too many. And then you have the outside rumors. I posted something earlier this week. CM Punk was teasing in an interview with Jackie Redmond about knowing a huge surprise for the Women's Royal Rumble. And obviously, your mind automatically goes to AJ Lee, and if she'll make a long-awaited return. Punk's return has been incredible. I think so much better than anyone could have imagined. Honestly, more than anyone would have thought possible a few years ago. So AJ Lee returning kind of feels like a matter of when, not if. But people have said that before. People have gotten their hopes up for her appearing before. So I don't know. But then there's the whole Alexa Bliss side of things as well, where she was reportedly just about to come back, and now reports are saying that she's in a contract dispute with WWE, and it's gotten to the point where they're so far apart on these talks that they don't know if they're going to be able to reach an agreement and if she's coming back. And that feels like a lot of smoke to kind of distract and to deflect here. So I don't 100% believe that. I think she's back sooner than later too, and possibly here at the Rumble. So there's a ton of stuff going on in this match. And the nice thing about the Royal Rumble is all the little sub stories that you get that kind of come out of this. I think, though, for my money, the person I'm going to pick is Bianca Belair because I think the WrestleMania match that makes the most sense to me on paper is Rhea Ripley defending against Bianca Belair in the night one main event or second to last match of the card, like a huge spot at WrestleMania. That is a WrestleMania main event match. Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley. So I'm going to say Bianca Belair wins this. I think we get some developments in the Jade Cargill attack injury storyline. Kind of find out what's been going on with her. I think she probably returns. I don't remember if I said her earlier. So I think we get that. I think Bianca Belair wins. I think she has an incredible showing here. Maybe eliminates 10 people, something like that. But I think this match ends up being tons of fun. And afterwards, people are saying, like, that's the best Women's Rumble match we've ever had. That would be my hope, at least. And then we have the Men's Royal Rumble with, like, half the field already announced. But like I said, it is full of heavy hitters. We have got LA Knight, John Cena, CM Punk, Jey Uso, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, Rey Mysterio, Sami Zayn, Shinsuke Nakamura, Logan Paul, Penta, Chad Gable, Braun Breaker, and Carmelo Hayes. There's like 4 or 5 names on there where you're like, I can't see you winning. Obviously, the favorites are probably John Cena and CM Punk. I really hope that there's a moment that those guys have in the Rumble, kind of like a, hey, we're back at it again. Can you believe it? Because those guys are kind of forever tied together, I think, in my mind, when you think about the both of them in their careers and what they've meant to each other. So I'm sure we'll get something like that. It feels too clean to say John Cena wins the Royal Rumble and challenges Cody Rhodes, but that's the match I want to see, is Cody Rhodes and John Cena. Like, while John Cena is here and active for this final run, I need to see a John Cena Cody Rhodes match. Cody with the title and that added lore to it, and the added history of John Cena chasing to break Ric Flair's record is just icing on the cake as far as I'm concerned. I just need to see what it looks like when these two pure all-American baby faces meet up and go against each other. It just, something about it just sounds like perfect. Like, I can picture the poster for WrestleMania so clearly in my head with this. But you got Roman Reigns, got Seth Rollins. CM Punk is someone who I think everyone is expecting to see in the final few and possibly even winning. It's no secret he wants that WrestleMania main event. So I don't know. And I was also thinking, I don't know how many people are out right now that would be like main event top tier, like in the men's rumble. So I'm not 100% sure how many surprises and appearances we're going to get that could actually be contenders to win the match. So I think the winner is somewhere in this field, this list right here. I don't think it's going to be Roman Reigns. I think we probably get something with him that'll tie into his feud. The popular thing I'm reading is this thought that The Rock is going to come out at 31 and just basically be like, I'm the final boss, I'm putting myself in the match, and then The Rock wins and challenges Cody Rhodes. I don't know if I like that. I like The Rock using his power like that, but I don't like The Rock Cody Rhodes as a main event match when we have Rock Roman and Cody Cena sitting right there as options. So it feels chalk to say John Cena wins. Man, I hate to do it. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say I think John Cena wins the Royal Rumble because it is the neatest, cleanest way to get to a Cody Rhodes John Cena WrestleMania main event. And then I think everything else that starts to come out of this shapes the rest of the WrestleMania card. I think we get a Roman Reigns Rock development. I think Punk, Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn is going to have something happen, probably with Kevin Owens. If I had to guess, Kevin Owens loses the title match, pops up here, eliminates Sami Zayn, off to the races. I think Penta is probably going to have a top perform. Like, Penta might be one or two in this in the entries. Like, it could be Chad Gable 1, Penta 2, and then Penta just goes for 45 minutes and finishes in like the top 4 or 5 last remaining people. Like, I think it's gonna be an incredible performance for Penta. I can't wait to see what screws Drew McIntyre out of this, so we get the direction for his next feud. Just, there's so many things, like I said, so many storylines and threads that can be connected here. I really can't wait. I would love to see Jacob Fatu come in and eliminate like 15 people and just have that monster spot, that Kane Big Show type of spot. I think it'd be great. He's built for a match like this. I cannot wait to see him in this. I really hope he's in it because I cannot wait to see him. Like, if it's like a nice full ring and then he just comes in and cleans house, like, I don't know. That's right up my alley, I guess. So that's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say DIY retain the titles. Cody Rhodes retains the title. Okay, now that I'm saying that back to back, I'm gonna change. Let's go Motor City Machine Guns win the tag titles. Cody Rhodes retains the undisputed title. Bianca Belair wins the Women's Royal Rumble, and John Cena wins the Men's Royal Rumble. Those are my predictions. Let me know what you think if you are seeing this before the show happened. If not, I will pop back on after the show and record a video about how wrong I was. So, thank you. I hope you enjoy the Royal Rumble, and I'll see you soon.